give me a 5-minute summary of the core beliefs. I don't want to put you on the spot. It's not a question.
No, that's not hard at all. So we have a famous hadith in which we're told that the angel Gabriel came in the form of a man and asked the prophet, tell me about faith. And the Prophet Muhammad said, faith is to believe that there's only one God, and that Muhammad, which includes all the previous messengers, is a messenger of God, to believe in angels, to believe in the books that God has revealed, to believe in the last day, the day of judgment, and to believe in the measuring out of good and evil, that good and evil is part of life. And then he said, tell me about Islam. And he said, Islam is that you make the testimony of faith, that you pray 5 times a day, that you fast Ramadan, that you pay zakat, the 2.5% of your standing wealth at the end, not your income tax, but your standing wealth at the end of a year, that's a whole year, 1/40th is given to poor people. There's 8 categories that are given in the Quran. And that you, if you're able to, you make a pilgrimage once in your lifetime to Mecca. And then he said, tell me about ihsan, which is the 3rd dimension of Islam. And he said, and this is the dimension of virtuous being, like being a person of arity, of excellence in the world. And he said, ihsan is to worship God as if you see God. And if you don't see him, at least you know that he sees you. So you have an awareness of that there is a divine presence, and you should be in a state of awareness in your behavior. I mean, one of the things about, if you're driving and everybody's speeding and then somebody sees a cop, they all suddenly slow down. I have a friend once who just zoomed past the cop when everybody slowed down, and he pulled him over. And he said, why didn't you slow down? He said, I felt like a hypocrite. So the guy, he let him go. But, that's people when they're in the presence of authority, they tend to behave well, unless they're an utter rebel. I mean, there are those people.
I'm trying to figure out how to be a Jew and a Christian and a Muslim at the same time.
But become Muslim, that's the best way, because the beauty of Islam is you get the Old Testament, the New Testament, and the Last Testament. I mean, that really is, for me, even the Jews acknowledge this, because Islam in many ways is a universalized Judaism. It's Judaism for the Gentiles. We have the mikvah, they do ghusl, we have ghusl. I mean, which is the ritual, the baptism, a total immersion in water ritually to purify yourself, which is done at least once a week.
I want to ask you a final question, then you can maybe help me in my aim. I've been trying to understand the Christian doctrine of the Word and its relationship to the Jewish prophetic tradition for a long time, and I know that Christ is a central figure in Islam as well. I mean, the Christians make the claim that Christ is the Son of God, right? He's the Messiah himself, and it's very difficult, if you're going to be a Christian, not to accept that claim. And I think I understand the claim in some sense psychologically. And I think the notion that the free word, the free, truthful word is the fundamental redeeming force. I believe that's true. I think it's true literally, and I think it's true metaphorically, and I suspect it might be true religiously, although I'm not exactly sure what that means. And I think part of the stumbling block for me in relationship to Islam, I can understand Christianity in relationship to Judaism, but I can't understand Islam in relationship to Christ, because I understand the Christian idea that Christ was a transcendent consequence of the prophetic tradition, and the Christian insistence that his life is associated with the divinity of the Word, and that is in some sense a final statement. And so I don't understand how Islam moves beyond that and still places Christ in a place of centrality.
Well, I mean, the Jews don't accept Christ at all. Like the best of the Jews will say he was a rabbi, but many of the rabbis considered him to be a charlatan, a magician. And Jesus in the Talmud, which was printed by Princeton University Press, makes that argument that the Talmudic views of Christ, which he argues in that book that it was understandable given that the Jews were so persecuted by the Christians. But the Muslim theology is I think it's a radical monotheism that even I think it transcends the monotheism of Judaism, which has some anthropomorphic elements in it that the Muslims would not accept. But generally, the Jews and the Christians agree on the theology. Rabbis, I've had many talks with rabbis, and they see Islam. In fact, Kohler says that Muslims were always seen as full proselytes of the Noahidic laws, whereas Christians were not because of the Trinity. So the Trinity is, the principle of the triad is, in Plato in the Timaeus talks about that. So the principle of the triad is a very powerful principle. And there are many, many trinities in the world that we see.